Commander Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the screen in front of him. The numbers didn't make sense. His ship, the USS Frontier, had been traveling through space for 3 months now. They were supposed to be looking for new planets that humans could live on someday. Instead, they had found something much worse. "Sir, you need to see this," said Dr. Lisa Park. She was the smartest person on the ship when it came to alien life. Her hands were shaking as she pointed to her computer screen. "These readings are not normal." Jake walked over to her station. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. His crew of 12 people had been working hard for weeks. They were tired, but they were good at their jobs. "What AM?" Looking at, Lisa?" Jake asked. "Ships, sir. Lots of them. Moving very fast toward our solar system." Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. "I count at least 300 vessels, maybe more." Chief Engineer Sam Williams looked up from his work. He was a big man with rough hands who could fix anything on the ship. 300 ships? That's impossible. Nobody has that many ships in one place. Jake felt his heart beating faster. "Are you sure about this, Lisa?" "I've checked the readings 10 times. These ships are huge, much bigger than anything we've ever built. And they're using some kind of technology that lets them travel faster than light." Kate Rodriguez, the ship's intelligence officer, had been listening to space radio signals for hours. She was good at her job because she never gave up. "Commander, I think I know who they are." Everyone turned to look at her. Kate's face was pale, and her hands were shaking. "I've been picking up their radio messages. They call themselves the Zorathian Galactic Empire. From what I can understand, they've been taking over other planets for a long time. They think humans are stupid animals." Sam slammed his fist on his desk. "Animals? We'll show them who the animals are." "Wait," Jake said. "Kate, what else did you hear?" Kate looked at her notes. "They're planning to reach Earth in 6 months. They think it will be easy." One of their messages said something about humans being too primitive to fight back. "They want our planet for its water and metals." The room went silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Earth was his home. His wife and 2 children lived there. Everyone on his crew had family back home. Billions of people who had no idea what was coming. Dr. Lisa Park stood up quickly. "Commander, we have to warn them. Earth needs to know about this." "How?" asked Sam. "We're too far away. It would take us 8 months to get back home the normal way. These aliens will be there in 6 months." Jake thought hard. There was one option, but it was very dangerous. Near their current location was a wormhole. It was a shortcut through space, but it was not stable. Ships that went through it sometimes never came out the other side. "Danny," Jake called to his best pilot. "Come here." Chief Pilot Danny Chun was young but brave. He had never met a challenge he wouldn't take on. "Yes, sir? I need you to take one of our small ships and go through that wormhole. It should put you close to Earth, maybe a month's travel from home." Danny's eyes went wide. "Sir, that wormhole is not safe. The last 3 ships that tried to go through it were destroyed." "I know," Jake said. "But if you don't try, everyone on Earth will die. These aliens have destroyed 17 other planets. They've never lost a war." The crew looked at each other. They all knew this might be their only chance to save their home. "I'll do it," Danny said without hesitation. "What's the message?" Jake thought carefully. The message had to be short, but clear. "Tell them this. A fleet of alien ships is coming to Earth. They call themselves the Zorathian Galactic Empire. They will arrive in 6 months. They have over 300 ships, and they think humans are too weak to fight them. Earth needs to prepare for war." Dr. Lisa Park grabbed Jake's arm. "Commander, should we tell them how powerful these aliens are?" Their weapons could destroy whole cities in seconds. Jake shook his head. If we tell them how hopeless it looks, they might give up before they even try. Humans are good at fighting when they have to. We need to give them hope, not fear. Danny was already putting on his spacesuit. I'll take the fastest ship we have. If I'm lucky, I'll make it through the wormhole and reach Earth in 5 weeks. And if you're not lucky? Asked Sam. Danny smiled. Then at least I tried to save everyone I care about. The crew helped Danny prepare his ship. It was small and fast, with just enough fuel to reach Earth if everything went right. They loaded it with all the information they had about the alien fleet. As Danny's ship moved toward the wormhole, Jake watched from the main screen. The wormhole looked like a spinning circle of light and energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Good luck, Danny, Jake whispered. The small ship disappeared into the wormhole. For a moment, there was nothing but empty space. Then the wormhole closed and Danny was gone. Jake turned to his crew. Now we wait and hope that Danny makes it home. And we keep watching these alien ships. We need to learn everything we can about them. Dr. Lisa Park was already back at her station, studying the alien fleet. Commander, there's something else. These Zorathians have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when we're angry. Let's hope they find out the hard way, Jake said. He looked out at the stars and thought about his family on Earth. In 6 months, everything would change. The question was whether humanity would survive long enough to fight back. President Laura Johnson was having her morning coffee when the call came. It was 6:30 in the morning, and she was reading reports in the White House. The phone rang with the special tone that meant something very bad had happened. Madam President, you need to come to the Pentagon right now, said General Peter Hayes. His voice was shaking. We have a situation. Lavra had been president for 2 years. She had dealt with wars, natural disasters, and economic problems. But she had never heard the general sound so scared. 30 minutes later, Lavra was sitting in a deep underground room beneath the Pentagon. With her were General Hayes, Secretary of Defense Amy Collins, and NASA Director Rick Parker. They all looked like they had seen a ghost. Show me, Lavra said. Dr. Monica Wright, the country's best space scientist, stepped forward. She was holding a tablet with trembling hands. Madam President, 3 hours ago we received a message from one of our deep space ships. The pilot's name is Danny Chun. What kind of message? Lavra asked. Dr. Wright pressed a button, and Danny's voice filled the room. He sounded tired and scared, but his words were clear. This is Chief Pilot Danny Chun of the USS Frontier. I am sending this message to warn Earth. A large alien fleet is heading toward our solar system. They call themselves the Zorathian Galactic Empire. They have over 300 ships, and they plan to take over Earth in less than 6 months. They think humans are too weak to fight them. Please prepare for war. This may be our only warning. The room was silent for a long moment. Lavra felt like the world had just turned upside down. Is this real? She asked. We've checked everything, said Rick Parker. The message came from the right location. The ship's codes are correct. And our deep space telescopes have found something moving toward us. General Hayes pulled up a map on the big screen. Madam President, if this is true, we have the biggest military threat in human history coming our way. Lavra stood up and walked around the room. How long do we have? 5.5 months, maybe 6, said Dr. Wright. But that's not the worst part. Based on the data Danny sent us, these aliens have technology that's hundreds of years ahead of ours, so we can't win? Lavra asked. Secretary Amy Collins spoke up. Madam President, we don't know what we can do until we try. But first, we need to tell the world. Tell the world? Lavra looked at her. Do you know what will happen when people find out aliens are coming to destroy Earth? Panic, said General Hayes. But we can't keep this secret. Too many people will. Need to help us get ready. Dr. Wright nodded. We'll need every scientist, every engineer, and every military person working together. This is bigger than any one country. Lavra made the hardest decision of her life. Call all the world leaders. We're having an emergency meeting in 12 hours. And call Captain Steve Mitchell. We're going to need someone to lead our space forces. 6 hours later, the leaders of every major country were meeting by video call. Lavra told them about the alien threat. Some didn't believe her at first. Then Dr. Wright showed them the proof. The president of Russia was the first to speak after seeing the evidence. If this is real, then we must work together or we all die. The Prime Minister of England agreed. What do you suggest we do? General Hayes had been working on a plan. We need to build weapons and ships as fast as possible. But we also need to be smart. These aliens think we're stupid. Maybe we can use that against them. Captain Steve Mitchell had arrived at the Pentagon. He was a good soldier who had served in space for 10 years. Laura put him in charge of something new called the United Earth Defense Force. Captain Mitchell, Laura said, you now have the hardest job in human history. You need to build a space navy in 5 months. Steve looked at the information about the alien fleet. Madam President, we have maybe 50 ships that can fight in space. They have 300. And their ships are much better than ours. Then we need to think differently, said Dr. Tony Baker. He was in charge of making new weapons for the military. We can't match their technology, but we can be unpredictable. Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Turner was brought in to train soldiers in new ways of fighting. Sir, what if we don't fight like they expect us to? What if we use tactics they've never seen before? Gamey Collins was taking notes. What do you mean? These aliens have conquered 17 planets, Lisa said. They probably have a standard way of fighting. But humans don't fight like other species. We're crazy when we need to be. Over the next week, the news spread around the world. At first, there was panic. People were scared and angry. Some wanted to hide. Others wanted to fight. But something amazing happened. Countries that had been enemies for years started working together. Engineers from different nations began sharing their best ideas. Scientists who had never met started working on the same problems. Kyle Anderson was put in charge of turning civilian spaceships into warships. We don't have time to build new ships, he said. But we have thousands of cargo ships, mining vessels, and research ships. We can put weapons on them. Communications. Officer Janet Gray was tasked with building a network to watch space around Earth. If we can see them coming, we can be ready, she said. Dr. Baker's team started working on new weapons. We need things that don't need advanced technology, he told his people. Nuclear weapons, kinetic missiles, anything that hits hard. As the weeks passed, something unexpected happened. The world wasn't falling apart. Instead, it was coming together like never before. Humans were showing that when faced with extinction, they could do incredible things. Lavra watched the reports coming in from around the world. Factories were being rebuilt to make weapons. Ships were being armed. Soldiers were training for a type of war that had never been fought before. Do you think we have a chance? Amy asked her one evening. Laura looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to destroy everything she loved. I don't know, she said, but I know one thing. These aliens have never fought humans before. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten our home. Fleet Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his massive warship and smiled. Through the large windows, he could see his fleet of 300 ships moving through space toward the small blue planet ahead. This was going to be the easiest conquest of his long career. "Admiral," said his tactical officer, "we are approaching the target system. Should we prepare for battle?" Zethkar laughed. "Battle? Against these primitive humans? Look at their pathetic planet. They barely have any ships in space. This will be over in hours, not days." The Zorathian admiral had conquered 17 worlds in the past 50 years. Each time, the local species had tried to fight back with their simple weapons and slow ships. Each time, they had failed quickly. Humans would be no different. "Sir, our scouts report unusual activity around the planet," said the communications officer. "There appear to be more ships than we expected. How many more?" Zethkar asked, still smiling. "Perhaps 200, sir. But they look like cargo ships and mining vessels. Nothing that could threaten us." Zethkar nodded. "Humans are probably trying to run away. Let them go. We only want their planet." But as the Zorathian fleet got closer to Earth, something strange happened. The human ships didn't run away. Instead, they moved to form a battle line between the aliens and their home world. Captain Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, humanity's largest fighting ship. It had been a passenger cruise ship just 6 months ago. Now it was covered with armor and weapons. "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez," he said into his radio. "Remember what we practiced. We can't match their firepower, so we use speed and surprise. Make every shot count." Around him, the combined fleet of Earth spread out in space. There were old military ships, converted cargo vessels, mining ships with makeshift weapons, and even some passenger ships that had been turned into fighters. It wasn't pretty, but it was all humanity had. Dr. Patricia Moore was working at the Luna Defense Complex on Earth's moon. For months, she had been building a secret weapon that the aliens didn't know about. It was a network of gravity generators that could create invisible traps in space. "Patricia, are you ready?" asked the voice from Earth Command. "As ready as we'll ever be," she replied. "When those alien ships get close enough, I can trap them in unstable gravity fields. They won't be able to move normally." On the Zorathian flagship, the weapons officer was getting confused. "Admiral, the human ships are not fighting the way we expected. They're moving in strange patterns." "What do you mean?" Zethkar asked. He was starting to feel less confident. "They're using their own space debris as weapons, sir. And some of their ships are flying directly at our vessels. It's like they want to crash into us." Zethkar had never seen anything like it. In all his years of conquest, enemy ships had always tried to stay far away and shoot from a safe distance. These humans were doing the opposite. Major Alex Turner was piloting a fighter that had been built from an old atmospheric aircraft. His job was to get close to the alien ships and cause as much damage as possible. "This is Major Turner to all fighter squadrons," he said. "Remember, these aliens have shields that stop energy weapons. But they're not designed to stop big chunks of metal moving very fast." Alex flew his small ship toward a huge Zorathian battle cruiser. Behind him, he was pulling a piece of an old satellite. At the last second, he released it and flew away. The satellite slammed into the alien ship's hull, causing a massive explosion. The Zorathian weapons officer watched in shock. "Sir, they're using space junk as missiles. Our shields can't stop solid objects moving at those speeds." On Earth, Dr. Patricia Moore activated her gravity weapon. Suddenly, dozens of Zorathian ships found themselves pulled in different directions by invisible forces. Some crashed into each other. Others spun out of control. "What's happening to our ships?" Zethkar demanded. "Unknown, sir. It's like space itself is attacking us." Captain Rodriguez saw his chance. "All ships, attack now while they're confused." The human fleet charged forward. Ships that had been carrying cargo last year were now firing nuclear missiles at alien warships. Mining vessels used their industrial lasers to cut through enemy hulls. Even the converted passenger ships were ramming into alien fighters. The battle was chaos. The Zorathians had better technology, but the humans were fighting in ways that made no sense. They used every dirty trick they could think of. They turned asteroids into weapons. They used their own damaged ships as bombs. They even used the gravity of nearby planets to slingshot attacks at the enemy. Lieutenant, Commander Ellen Davis was commanding a ship that had been a garbage collector before the war. "You want to call us primitive?" she shouted as she rammed her vessel into an alien cruiser. "Let's see how you like our primitive warfare." For the first time in his career, Admiral Zethkar was losing a battle. His ships were being destroyed by enemies that should have been easy to defeat. The humans weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting like they had nothing to lose. "Admiral, we've lost 40 ships, reported the tactical officer. "The humans are using tactics we've never encountered. They're treating their own ships like ammunition." Zethkar stared at the battle in disbelief. One human ship had just exploded itself inside the hangar of a Zorathian carrier, destroying both ships. Another had used a tractor beam to pull an asteroid into a group of alien fighters. "Sir, should we retreat?" asked the communications officer. "Retreat?" Zethkar had never retreated from anything. "We have superior technology. We have more ships. But they're not fighting like any species we've encountered before," the tactical officer said. "They're unpredictable. They're willing to sacrifice everything." The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, both fleets were badly damaged. The Zorathians had lost 60 ships, while the humans had lost 80. But something important had changed. For the first time in their history, the Zorathian Galactic Empire had failed to win a quick victory. The humans had proven they could. Fight back, and fight back hard. Admiral Zethkar looked at the tactical display. The human ships were regrouping, and more were coming from the planet below. These weren't the primitive animals his intelligence reports had described. "Send a message to the Empire," he said quietly. "Tell them we need reinforcements. These humans are not what we expected." Back on Earth, Captain Rodriguez surveyed the damage to his fleet. They had lost many good people, but they had also proven something important. Humans could fight aliens and survive. "This is just the beginning," he told his remaining captains. "They'll be back with more ships. But now they know we won't go down without a fight." 3 months had passed since the first battle, and the war was getting worse. The Zorathians had brought more ships, but they had also learned to fear something they had never feared before: human creativity. Chief Scientist Helen Moore worked day and night in her underground laboratory. Around her, pieces of destroyed alien ships covered every table. She had been trying to understand how their technology worked. "I think I've got it," she said to engineer Marcus Bell, who was helping her. "Their energy shields work differently than we thought. If we can copy this technology, we can protect our ships better." Marcus looked at the alien device they had, taken from a crashed ship. "Can we build something like this with our materials?" "Not exactly like this," Helen said. "But we can make something that works almost as well. It won't be pretty, but it will work." Across the solar system, the war had become something no one expected. The Zorathians found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to get stronger every time they were defeated. Admiral Zethkar had received reinforcements from the Empire. His fleet now had over 400 ships. But he was no longer confident about winning. "Sir, the humans have attacked our supply ships again," reported his tactical officer. "They used a cargo vessel filled with explosives. They rammed it right into our fuel depot." Zethkar was tired and frustrated. "How did they even find our supply depot?" "It was hidden behind that moon." "Unknown." 1 year after the first battle, The war had changed everything. Half of Earth's cities were in ruins, and billions of people lived in underground shelters. But humanity was still fighting. Colonel Ryan Foster looked out from his damaged ship. At the final battle taking place around Earth, he commanded the last working squadron of human fighters. His ships were beaten up and held together with spare parts, but they still flew. "This is it," he told his pilots over the radio. "The aliens are making their final push. If we lose today, Earth falls." Around him, the remnants of Earth's space fleet prepared for the last battle. They had maybe 40 ships left that could still fight. The Zorathians had over 200 ships surrounding the planet. But something had changed during the Long War. The alien ships moved more carefully now. They had learned to fear human tactics. Admiral Zethkar no longer expected easy victories. "Sir, the human ships are moving into attack formation," reported the Zorathian tactical officer. "Should we advance?" Zethkar hesitated. In the past year, every time he had underestimated the humans, he had lost ships. "Proceed carefully. Watch for traps." On Earth's surface, Surface Commander Nicole Wright was coordinating the planet's final defense. She had spent months preparing for this moment. "All ground batteries, prepare to fire," she said into her communicator. "Remember, we only get one chance at this." Hidden across Earth's surface were hundreds of missile launchers that had been built in secret. They were loaded with nuclear warheads that had been modified using captured alien technology. Colonel Foster's squadron flew straight at the Zorathian fleet. It looked like a desperate final charge, but it was actually part of a bigger plan. "All ships execute Plan Wildcard," Foster commanded. The human fighters suddenly split apart and flew in different directions. They weren't trying to attack the alien ships directly. Instead, they were leading them toward Earth. Admiral Zethkar watched the human ships scatter. "They're running toward their planet. Follow them. This is our chance to finish them." The Zorathian fleet moved closer to Earth, chasing the human fighters. They didn't realize they were flying into a trap that had taken months to prepare. Dr. Patricia Moore was still working at the Luna Defense Complex on the Moon. She had been improving her gravity weapons throughout the war. Now she had something special ready. "Nicole, are they in position?" she asked Surface Commander Wright. "Almost. Bring them in closer." Patricia activated her gravity generators. But instead of trapping the alien ships, she did something different. She used Earth's own gravity well to accelerate objects toward the enemy fleet. "What's happening?" asked Admiral Zethkar as his ship suddenly started being hit by fast-moving objects. "The humans are using their planet's gravity to throw things at us," said his tactical officer. "Missiles, debris, even chunks of their own space stations." Colonel Foster smiled as he watched the plan work. "Now, Nicole, fire everything." From Earth's surface, hundreds of nuclear missiles launched at once. But these weren't ordinary nuclear weapons. Human scientists had learned how to make them more powerful using alien technology. The missiles flew up through Earth's atmosphere and slammed into the Zorathian fleet. The explosions lit up space like a second sun. Dozens of alien ships were destroyed in seconds. "Impossible," shouted Zethkar. Where did they get that much firepower? His fleet was in chaos. Ships were exploding all around him. The humans had somehow built weapons that were almost as powerful as Zorathian technology. But the battle wasn't over. The aliens still had more ships, and they began to fight back. Energy beams rained down on Earth, destroying cities and military bases. Colonel Foster's squadron was down to 12 ships. All fighters, final attack run. Make it count. The remaining human ships flew directly at the Zorathian flagship. It looked like suicide, but Foster had one last trick. "Computer, activate the gravity bomb," he said. Foster's ship was carrying a special weapon that Dr. Patricia Moore had designed. It was a device that could create a small black hole for just a few seconds. It was incredibly dangerous, but it was their only chance. Foster flew his ship as close as possible to the alien flagship before activating the weapon. The gravity bomb created a tiny black hole that pulled several Zorathian ships together and crushed them. Foster's ship was destroyed in the explosion, but he had taken the enemy command ship with him. Without their flagship, the Zorathian fleet began to fall apart. The remaining ships tried to regroup, but the human defenders pressed their attack. Surface Commander Wright coordinated the final assault from Earth. All remaining missiles, fire at will. Don't let any of them escape. Admiral Zethkar found himself on a damaged ship with half his fleet destroyed. For the first time in his long career, he was facing complete defeat. "Sir, we have to surrender," said his tactical officer. "We've lost too many ships. The Empire will not send more reinforcements for this war." Zethkar looked at the tactical display. The humans had fought for an entire year against impossible odds. They had lost billions of people and half their planet, but they had never given up. "Send a message to the human leaders," he said quietly. "Request terms of surrender." President Laura Johnson received the surrender request in her underground bunker. Most of Washington, D.C. was in ruins, but the government was still functioning. "What? Are there terms?" she asked General Hayes. "They want safe passage out of our solar system in exchange for a complete withdrawal," he replied. Laura thought about all the people who had died in the war. She thought about the cities that had been destroyed and the children who had lived in fear for a year. "Tell them this," she said. "Complete withdrawal from human space, a 50-year non-aggression treaty, and they leave behind all their damaged ships so we can study their technology." When Admiral Zethkar received the human terms, he was surprised. They weren't harsher. Most species the Empire had conquered would have demanded revenge. "They're giving us a chance to leave with honor," he told his officers. "Accept their terms." 3 days later, the remaining Zorathian ships left Earth's solar system. They had arrived expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they limped home with less than half their fleet and a story that would shock the galaxy. President Johnson stood in the ruins of the White House and looked up at the stars. Earth had survived, but at a terrible cost. However, humanity had proven something important to the galaxy. Dr. Monica Wright joined her at the window. "The Zorathians are sending messages to other species about what happened here. Word is spreading that humans fought back and won." "Good," Laura said. "Maybe other worlds will realize they don't have to accept conquest. Maybe they'll learn to fight back too." The war was over, but its effects would be felt across the galaxy for generations. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through superior technology, but through something more powerful, the refusal to surrender when everything they loved was threatened. And in space stations throughout the galaxy, other species began to whisper about the small blue planet whose people had done the impossible. They had defeated the Zorathian Empire and lived to tell about it.